When I first got into 2001's Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare on the PlayStation 1, my initial thought was shameful knockoff of 1996's Resident Evil. Yet again, another survival horror title that has you running around a seemingly abandoned mansion in desperate search of a key, trinket, or scrap of paper that'll aid you in progressing, all while occasionally having your path blocked by nasty little beasties. I wasn't exactly enthused by the choice of characters either. You have the option of playing Edward Carnby, a man who runs like he's taken multiple kicks to the nuts.
Oh, there he goes again,
He's holding his nuts, and I was like, it really hurts, they bit me in the balls. Or Aline Cedric, aka Daddy Issues. And don't get me started on the voice acting.
Aline, I'll come for you, and that's a promise.
Ew. Ew.
But I'd rather you have a taste of darkness while you're still alive.
Lamb, is that you?
Professor Morton, what a pleasure to hear from you.
Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare is not a polished game. It's clunky to control, it can be glitchy on occasion. What are you doing? Are you okay, buddy?
He's humping the wall.
Do you
Are you
need me to
okay?
call someone? Are you okay?
I think you've glitched him out. He's getting ready for somebody.
In the rock.
What the fuck? I am in the rock! And the game refuses to acknowledge you've interacted with an object or key item unless you're standing in the exact spot it wants you to. A problem that's exacerbated by the fact nothing important in this game stands out against the slightly fuzzy 2D backdrops. So you'll spend most of your time mashing X and smushing your character's face into every shelf, desk and wall, in the hopes a key item will suddenly pop up so you can carry on through this house of horrors. Where is the light? Oh wait, is it this? No. You don't want to get that? Oh, well... I mean, I mashed there and nothing happened, so this game can seriously go die in a fire. It's a shame I did find so many problems with the New Nightmare, because the longer I played, the fonder I became of it, to the point I could almost forgive it for its shortcomings. Bear in mind as well, I'm someone who hates jump scares and finds loud, sudden noises extremely unsettling, which this game happily threw at me with great enthusiasm. Well, can I leave then? I can't get round, I'm too fat, apparently.
No, it's the granny!
I have my final oral exam for my A-levels in front of 3 teachers tomorrow and I'm so scared. Oh my god! Look at me, just threw me out of the fucking room!
Fuck off!
Normally this would be enough to put me off a horror game, but the New Nightmare has enough nifty features about it that kept me delving further into its mysteries. For starters, I'm a sucker for anything Lovecraftian, and what could be more so than visiting an old mansion that resides on an island, lovingly named Shadow Island, filled to the brim with otherworldly horrors that lurk in the dark. The New Nightmare also does an amazing job in setting the atmosphere. Now, I am playing a game titled Alone in the Dark. It's therefore not hard to imagine most of my exploration while on this island would be done in the dark.
Oh, anything on that trolley. Put it back on! They'll do it again.
But the New Nightmare takes this one step further with its lighting system. In older horror games, flashlights don't tend to function realistically, and exist as a means to brighten up the entire area your character is standing in, rather than one particular spot. Well, the New Nightmare developers, Darkworks, decided that just wasn't good enough for their spooky mansion exploration game, and designed a system that allowed for multiple levels of illumination. So the area you're pointing the flashlight at is nice and bright and shiny, but everything else is bathed in varying levels of darkness. This is amazingly implemented in the game, and even comes with its own controls for moving the flashlight. Hello, my name is Jeffrey. Something that'll be necessary as you come up against the denizens of Shadow who cower in fear of the light, for solving certain puzzles, and of course to accompany pew pew sounds made by yours truly. Pew 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 pew.
What's that black thing on the wall on the right, left?
Where?
On the wall?
Where?
Where? There's a shadow.
Where?
On the clock.
Where? The writings on the wall, it won't go away. And for someone who is absolutely terrified of the dark, or rather what could be lurking in it,
Oh, that's spooky. You had made the house
No.
angry.
No, I don't like that. Why are the lights off? This particular gameplay element made for some seriously intense moments. There was one section where the lights unexpectedly went out, and I found myself trapped in an almost pitch black laboratory filled with cages and dissected monsters. Saying I pooped my pants would be an understatement.
We'll be okay.
We're not gonna be okay.
And then that thing sits up on the chair.
No, I don't want to play. No. Where did he go?
And then in the deck.
Then there are the quite frankly fantastic camera angles. It's another technique the developers use to build tension as they often precede jump scares. Look at this camera angle, that's so good. It's like really
Someone dropped their phone.
spooky. Someone dropped their phone. Starzy, where you got ruined? Or just come across as downright disturbing, with the view from inside the mansion looking outwards being the one that stands out the most to me. What
You hear
a
that?
shot. That is a badass
Someone's
shot.
going to appear in the window.
Oh, I'm just gonna take my earphone off. Unfortunately, as haunting as the camera angles are, they don't half get on my nerves when coupled in with the combat. I frequently found myself missing shots because I thought I was lined up to whatever nasty bugger was shuffling towards me, only to find I was a few inches off to the left or right. Sorry, buddy. What are you aiming at? Stay down! No, what are you aiming at? Stay down! Fucking!
Oh, God.
My god, how many shots do you take? This weirdly seems to be an even bigger issue when it comes to the bizarre spray and pray weapons like the plasma cannon. And while either character will lock on to the nearest enemy when they're in range, I often found myself shooting a wall or tree that I didn't realise was blocking my view of said foe due to the combination of confusing camera angles and depth perception issues with the 2D backdrops. And then there were the puzzles. Now, I played Con-B side of the story, which results in less puzzles and more shooty bang bang. But even the few that were thrown at me were a completely mixed bag. Some of them were fun, like working out you needed a certain attachment to the flashlight that would reveal hidden symbols written in blood.
Look at that, you're clever.
Well, actually... Others, not so much. The portrait puzzle was particularly egregious, requiring you to sift through 49 pages of a document in order to find the dates that corresponded to the people in said paintings. What's even more insulting is the game just hands you the answers to the portrait puzzle at the end of the document. Archibald Morton and Jennifer Pritchett. Okay, so that was Archibald. He
Fun
was
fact,
born
all the dates
1817.
are on page 49. Quick.
What? Fucking... Here I was being fucking trying to do it properly. Oh my god, I was being really smart. Now, I love getting into character and reading out information to my lovely viewers, but the amount of unimportant details this game throws at you in the form of reading is too much even for me. Grandpa Jeremy died this morning, blah blah blah. Asked him, he told me that if my design, oh my god, this goes on. Father's afraid, can we get to the point? I kind of have to read it, but at the same time, why 17 pages? Why not just get to the point? And the exposition dumps, oh my lord! It's as if the developers realised they had to account for lazy gamers like myself who skim through information in books, and so they created Exposition Man here, who occasionally turns up to chuck 5 minutes of story in your face before moonwalking away.
I know who
It's a
you
Native
are
American.
and what you have come looking for. Go to the library. The books withhold many a secret.
Oh, he walks back
walked
into
away, he just walked off. And are you okay? There's one last thing I have to mention about the new nightmare that drove me bonkers. The amount of keys you have to find in this game is not only ridiculous, but downright infuriating when you realise none of them are conveniently labelled in a way to make working out which lock they fit a simple task. There are so many keys in this game, I was surprised Con-B didn't jingle as he walked. I get that key finding is the sort of thing you expect when you play survival horror games like this, but titles like Silent Hill at least had the decency to tell you what exactly the key was for, rather than giving you asinine names such as I see, so that makes more sense though. Now, I would have loved to have seen Aline's side of the story to get da full alone in the dark experience, but given she supposedly has far tougher puzzles than Carnby, and by this point I was struggling with basic reading comprehension, I'm not surprised, Stars, my brain's gone asleep reading this. I don't think that would have been wise. I did initially start off as Aline because, hey, big tits and daddy issues, I mean, come on.
Motorboater.
I can't do it, I'm too tall. I'm almost eye level with their titties. Upon realising, however, her only means of defence for the first few hours of gameplay was angrily shining her flashlight into the eyes of her enemies like she's warding off a Dead by Daylight killer, I figured that style of gameplay, coupled with potentially difficult puzzles, might have had me throwing in the towel before the end. This isn't scary, this is just annoying. What a terrible character. Here's the man with the gun and the awesome hair, and here's daddy issues. Oh, dearie me. Go on.
The awesome hair.
No. Flashy, washy. In all, Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare is a perfect game for those of you who love the old school Resident Evil style of gameplay. Tight, claustrophobic corridors, creepy, shuffling zombies and ghouls, head-scratching puzzles, and keys, oh my god, so many fecking keys. And even if you have no attachments to horror games of old, you may just appreciate the aesthetics of The New Nightmare, what with its Lovecraftian themes, creepy camera angles, hair-raising wails and screeches heard over the wind. I made Merton watch the week. Laughing at an adult game that's intended to be scary is totally Hello? And the strangely enjoyable soundtrack, partly composed by none other than Stuart Copeland. So even if it's not the most polished game in the world, even if it's not doing anything new with the survival horror genre, save for a nifty flashlight mechanic, it's definitely not a game I regret trying out, and I'd advise you to do the same if you haven't already, if only for a couple of hours. Just be sure to bring spare flashlight batteries, be prepared to do a lot of reading, and don't get lost in the dark. Oh my god, fucking... That scared me so bad.